For those who've missed it, so Balancer apparently got exploited overnight, the version 2 of its smart contract. So it's not the V1 that has been around for 6 years. Probably some reentrancy attack. Maybe Owner, you can explain that a little better. But right now it seems as if the total damage amounts to around 100 million. Most of it comes from ETH and ETH derivatives that got exploited there. And as of now, there's no official tweet from the Balancer team that the exploit has been patched or fixed. And there have been some Balancer forks, amongst them, I think it's Bex on Berachain. And Berachain got halted by the validators this morning. So yeah, decentralization at its work, at its best. Of course, it's very easy to make fun of it, though I think that if there is an obvious path to securing user funds, I think it will be more and more normalized to hold chains in the future, especially if it is something newer and with less validators than, let's say, ETH or BTC. I could very rarely imagine a scenario where either one of those would get halted. But with these newer ones, especially when it comes to EVM L2s, I think that will be more accepted going forward. But yeah, curious to hear your guys' takes.
I don't have any specifics as per technicalities, but I think in general, the craziest thing is Balancer is not a recent protocol. Balancer is a DeFi dinosaur, which has been around for multiple years. I don't know how many years, but it's, 4 or 5 years or whatever, and has been audited multiple times. The fact that this can still happen in DeFi is a massive setback with regards to trust and credibility and institutional adoption. Like imagine, if the core protocols such as Uniswap, such as Aave, I would say Balancer was in that category, are not safe. I mean, then what's the point of using anything? Anything other than that is more recent and probably more prone to attacks. So I think it's a massive setback. Yeah, the amount isn't huge, but the market already wasn't in a good condition. So yeah, it's pretty bad right now. But yeah, I'm not exposed.
Yeah, I think especially since there have not been any major exploits on a protocol level this year, especially relative to 2022, 2023. The biggest one this year was the Bybit hack, and that was a front end, switching the front end and address thing. So that was more on an exchange level, but not anything that impacted our truly fascinating decentralization tech. But yeah, moving on with some other news or developments. Speaking of the Berachain halt, there has been a Berachain DAT, and I think Yuri, you wanted to comment on that a little bit.
Yes. So there have been discussions about that, to build a new investment vehicle to accelerate kind of a flywheel effect for Bera and the Berachain ecosystem by launching a so-called DAT, which was initiated by Greenlane, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, but pretty sure it was Greenlane, was discussed and announced around Token 2049 and the Korea Blockchain Week, and it just popped up now for me. And that's also why I wanted to talk about it for a little bit, because you see, Berachain just got basically one of his first bigger hits, something that they are not responsible for. But I mean, we've seen it also with FMOS, right? In the past, there was like a the Nomad hack, and completely drained the FMOS ecosystem. And this was like something that was completely out of the control of the FMOS team, yet FMOS suffered from that significantly. And I just found it so fascinating. So Berachain isn't even a year old, or at least not at mainnet for a year old. And I just see it left and right how these super immature ecosystems try to launch a DAT and talk about how to foster the ecosystem with investment flywheel, and that they receive demand from Wall Street or whatever. I'm super skeptic of that. And we talked about it before the show. Yes, it makes sense. And it's also kind of an initiative to stay relevant and make sure that the asset itself stays up. I get that. But for me, it really feels like that a lot of the brain power, a lot of the resources are not properly not invested into the right things, because people don't think about growth right now in many of these altcoin areas. That's also why I'm personally very bearish on a lot of altcoins. They're just focused on that someone is buying their crap, so to say. That's what they're focused on, and ecosystem growth and all of these things are completely irrelevant. And this is like something that's a little bit worrying, I believe, for the broader ecosystem.
I agree with your overall take. It's kind of a last gasp for relevance and not completely dying alongside your coin. I think that most of these teams don't have a lot of alternatives right now. Basically, we have not seen any net user inflow since mid 2022. Arguably, with the top of the 2021 cycle in November 4 years ago, and Luna collapsing in 2022, like on-chain participation in terms of like retail genuinely being excited for these use cases has been on a down-only trip. If you look at DeFi farming right now, anybody who has had any long-term time preference or any long-term view on anything, any long-term conviction, they all lost out this cycle. Like if I look at my DeFi positions that I accumulated from the beginning of this year, they're all in the red, like unanimously. I think there's like one or two meme coins where I'm still in the green, but these were very low position sizes, and it was just because I got like somewhat early. But all the other stuff, which are genuinely good projects, if you look at Maple's Syrup or Ifina, they've been doing an excellent job on the BD growth expansion side, integrated into a ton of things. Still, their token is not picking up well, and it's getting continued sell pressure from early investor unlocks, or in the case of some of the POS tokens, obviously the staking rewards. I think TIA is the most prominent example there. So yeah, I don't really know how to fix that. I also don't think that the DATs, which follow a very simple buy and hold strategy, have any future, at least not the ones who are spinning up right now. The large ones that are already existing, most of them arguably have been able to like do these financial engineering shenanigans to finance themselves for the years going forward. And unless the asset prices of their underlying totally plunges and stays in the gutter for years, which in the case of BTC and ETH DATs and also Solana DATs is not that likely to happen. I think most of them will be fine, but the entire longer tail, I really don't see any future there. And I think it's rational, or let's say efficient, if they trade at a discount to NAV going forward, because ETFs are getting more and more accessible. If you are a TradFi deployer, you can deploy capital into on-chain finance via curators, vault providers, etc. That is not an impossibility. I don't see a reason to accumulate these DATs unless you have a huge shift and suddenly a huge appetite for longer tail risk assets again. Then it may make sense to speculate on the NAV premium to increase and buy the shares of them. But other than that, I don't see a very positive path forward for the long tail of them.
No, not at all. Also, if you look at, just so that the people also understand that what kind of companies become DATs. So usually the life cycle is that a company that is publicly listed and is struggling is doing this pivot. So it's like basically both sides are like trying to do basically trying to take advantage of the last resort. The company is like pivoting, saying, hey, we're doing something completely different now. Maybe crypto bros will pump our valuations.
I would add some brief
that's
context to that, because usually it's not coming, like the shift into a DAT is rarely coming from the underlying company. It's usually the team that wants to set up a DAT, picking a company that they want to acquire. So like logically they acquire one which is usually operationally not doing a lot anymore. So like, of course there might be a little bit of adverse selection, but like
obviously you need to convince the board.
As
that's how public companies work, right? You need to still go in, convince the board, and have like these conversations. A lot of people say, okay, whatever.
Well, you can do a hostile takeover. If it's trading at a very low price, you can just buy up the shares that are publicly traded. You can kick out the old management and turn it into a DAT. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, but for that, they still have like a bigger market cap, and so usually
Guys,
it works like this.
I'm getting alpha in real time, and
Yeah.
it's a controversial one. Apparently, the balancer hack was vibe coded. So
Another
some people
Birkin bag for Kim Jong-un.
some people analyzed the console logs, or like, you know, what's been logged in production. And normally it's common practice to remove console logs in production. It's just good practice. You don't do that. It's mostly for debugging. And here there were console logs, and the logs look exactly like an LLM. It would basically help you understand what's happening, step 1, step 2 type. So it's just rumors, but it would be wild. It would be wild.
On that note, do you think it could be a white hat exploit, or do you think that's very unlikely?
I mean, first of all, yeah, I think it could be. Given that there hasn't been any communication, it's super weird. Maybe they're like negotiating behind the scenes. But if it's not a white hack, and if it's LLM based, this could set precedent for LLM providers actually exposing the hacker. So there's a couple different scenarios here. If a hosted LLM was used, like ChatGPT or Claude, then those providers know who penetration tested this before, coincidentally. If it's a locally ran LLM with proper GPUs and whatnot, I mean, yeah, then it's not possible. But I don't know. White hack, 70, 80 million? Unlikely. Doesn't smell like white hat.
Let's see. I think if it is a white hat hack, I would have a guess who could be behind it. Like it would be a crazy long tail outcome if he actually turns out to be, but it would be pretty hilarious.
Okay, who do you think? Now you have to say.
I really can't say it on the podcast, but yeah, I have like one person in mind who would fit right into that whole like storyline. But yeah, it would be pretty funny. I don't think he's behind it, because I think we should assume that it is not a white hack.
Max just DM'd me, Jacob Gedikian. Just kidding. All right.
Yeah, speaking of him, like, have you guys followed along Cosmoverse at all?
No,
I
not really.
just saw empty seats. I don't know. I don't have any insights.
I guess nobody knows because nobody attended. But on another note, the Solana ETFs went live.
Can we just to for the sake of wrap up that the Berachain chapter real quick with the DATs. So we ended with that you could just take over. I think in most of the scenarios it's really like an interest coming from both sides. But my last 2 cents to all of that. Because it's not only Berachain, I think there's also like an IP for Story Protocol. There's a similar one for Injective. Like all of these chains, I just hope that it calms down a little bit, because all of that is like I don't know if it's like so healthy for the industry to launch this. Sorry to say it, but I think most of them are like crappy. Super.
No, I fully agree. I think I think it was either at Token or at DAS London. I think it was at DAS London, where I spoke to the Injective team because they had a booth there. And I was like, hey, I used to be pretty interested in your ecosystem 2 years ago, followed along quite a bit, haven't caught up in a while. Like, what's happening? And basically the only catalyst they told me about was a DAT coming up. It's like, I'm asking them, hey, what is going on in your ecosystem growth? And the only answer is, well, there's some hostile or maybe like whatever takeover TradFi company that is going to buy our token. I mean, what kind of adoption ecosystem growth is that? I mean, are you like, no wonder all of these things are down 80% and more. And frankly, they should reprice even lower.
And just also to end this, you also need a lot of capital in order for a DAT to have like a significant impact. Berachain, for example, and Greenlane, they are collecting $110 million in the market for that. They want to buy $110 million worth of BERA. Like, I'm just super curious where they will find it. Like,
Well,
where does this money come from?
I think the liquidity necessary to push up the price heavily depends on who they are buying it from. Most of these DATs, especially on the longer tail, they don't buy it open market. Because if you look at
Sure.
Injective and the liquidity available for Injective, if you were to like yank $20 million or however large that DAT is straight into the market and just market buy 20 million of INJ, then yeah, you would have a very positive price impact. Same with 50 or 110 million for BERA tokens. It's not, I mean, the BERA liquidity is by far not as deep as ETH or BTC. But the issue is that mostly these DATs acquire a large percentage of their token holdings either from other early investors who sell OTC or directly from the foundation. So the net buying pressure on the open market is very muted. I think there were some analytics out a few weeks or a few months ago when the hyperliquid treasury first came up, and I think also some of the ETH DATs, and the common kind of distribution there was usually that you had sort of a like 2/3 to 1/3 split between buying from early investors and foundations versus buying on the open market. But I think especially for these kind of down only tokens like BERA or INJ, I could very well imagine, and I have not verified this information, but I could very well imagine that almost all the volume is coming from OTC sales, and the actual buying pressure on the open market is very limited. Because otherwise, we should have seen it in the price at least a bit.
100% agree.
But
Yeah,
speaking
and
of
just one
institutional,
thing, INJ really went down almost 50% in the past 4 weeks. That's insane.
Jesus. Yeah,
But
it had an insane run in, I think, early 2024.
yeah, and also before.
Truly easier times. I don't think that I have it on my, oh yeah, I still have it on my watch list. This thing is down only. Jesus.